Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michelle Imbernoni, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon. While we're waiting and allowing others to still check in, we want to just go ahead and let you know that there's still that poll question available for you. And while you are working on that, we do want to remind those of you who are still grabbing the attendance piece that if you have dialed in, please go ahead and mute your phones so that there's no distractions while we are continuing the webinar today. We are from the Educator Evaluation Unit here at the Michigan Department of Education, and we are in the Office of Educator Workforce. We are building this content in collaboration with a fantastic group of teacher leaders from across the state. The Michigan Teacher Leadership Council is known as MTLAC, and these members have provided insight that has allowed us to focus in on some of the specific questions that are being asked across the state by our Michigan teachers throughout our Michigan schools. So your participation and feedback are very important to us. And during the webinar today, we are going to ask that you go ahead and do the Q&A feature, which will ask you to go ahead and post questions and respond to those poll questions and interact with us. That way we have an opportunity to interact with you as well. We do have a number of consultants in the room, and we do want to let you know that it is an honor to host this meeting and this webinar with you, and we want to say thank you for those of you who are able to join us throughout the state on this webinar call this afternoon. We are very excited to share some of the content with you and support you throughout your professional practices during the educator evaluation cycle, during your continuous improvement work. It is our goal this afternoon to provide information and guidance that will empower you and other teachers to take ownership of your evaluation and professional growth processes. We want to encourage you in your participation during the webinar, and again, these Q&A pods will be available to post any questions that you might have throughout the course of the webinar, and there will be opportunities as well for a group response. We will attempt to answer as many of those questions that you might have during the live webinar as possible. Following the webinar, we will send out an expanded Q&A document that you will receive with extended answers to the questions that are raised from today's session. Additionally, after the webinar, we will also send out via email the presentation slide deck and a link to the recording of the webinar. You will also receive a survey link via email after the webinar, and I would like to emphasize that you must respond to this survey as a part of the Sketch credit process. Participants are eligible for Sketch credits after you have attended at least 3 webinars in the series, and you have to attend the live webinar sessions. And the process for obtaining Sketch credit is this. You'll receive a survey link via email after the webinar. You must respond to that survey with your PIC number included, and then you're going to receive the standard Sketch email from MOEX. Incidentally, those of you who might be joining us via the Adobe Connect app, you may not be able to go ahead and click on the link in the survey accurately, but we do promise that you will be able to access the survey via the email provided. The webinar today is to provide guidance and support teachers to engage in the evaluation and professional growth process. We hope to encourage teachers to embrace the evaluation processes and the frameworks as tools and strategies for professional growth. We understand that the participants on today's webinar are likely working with different adopted evaluation models, and that each of these frameworks has identified processes. Therefore, we are providing guidance that is vendor agnostic and not specific to any framework. Instead, best practices that could be brought into any of the frameworks. And again, thank you for joining us today. Pardon me as I'm having just a bit of problem with my laptop. Excuse me just a second. Thanks. So as we take a look at our Top 10 in 10 initiative, we have a strategic goal number 3, which is develop, support, and sustain a high-quality, prepared, and collaborative educator workforce. We at MDE believe that the high-quality educator evaluations can support both student learning as well as educator well-being. High-quality evaluations can provide teachers with critical feedback on how they can improve their own practice to impact the lives of students. In addition to facilitating educators' personal pursuits of excellence, systematic improvements to educator evaluations in schools and districts play an essential role in providing targeted professional development responsive to the needs of educators. So our areas for focus today will be a new mindset toward instructional framework. We're going to take a look at unpacking frameworks, taking back the walkthrough, and taking a look at teacher-led peer observation protocols. The content and focus for our webinar was influenced by the feedback and questions from our previous webinars in the series, along with input from educators around the state. Our goal today will be to identify tools and strategies to support educators to better understand their evaluation framework, as well as identify collaborative opportunities to support professional growth. As we move forward into our first Reflect and Respond poll question, I'd like you to take a moment and have you take a look at this first question. Do you feel that the training you've received was adequate to develop a comprehensive understanding of the organization, vocabulary, instructional pedagogy of the instructional framework that you are currently using? As most of you are finishing up that question, it does appear that some of you have indicated that you have a background that indicates that you know the vocabulary and can speak to some of the elements, but overall your understanding is limited. So we hope to have an impact on your understanding, and we hope today's webinar you'll be able to answer that question in a much different format. Please excuse us for just a second. We are having some tech problems here. We're going to take a look at what challenges are present for teachers trying to implement adopted instructional frameworks. MDE has asked this question to teachers and to administrators in the field through multiple formats with the goal of identifying supports for successful implementation of effective evaluation systems. Educators from around our state have responded to surveys through Northern Michigan University, Marzano Research, and Ray Taylor and Associates. We have posted these reports for public use on our MDE Educator Evaluation website. I do want to encourage you to take a look at these. They are very insightful. As part of Michigan's ESSA plan, MDE has collaborated with teacher leaders across the state to form the Michigan Teacher Leadership Advisory Council. MTLAC members have contributed to the content of today's webinar, helping to put into context some of the challenges facing educators implementing the educator evaluation systems. Does this sound familiar to you? I teach traditionally a non-core subject area. Perhaps it may be art, music, PE, and my principal ends up not being able to provide feedback on many areas of the framework because they do not apply to my classroom. I'm not too upset because it does not directly hurt my evaluation score, but when the administrator is indicating many of the areas as not applicable, then I have less areas to show effectiveness. I wish that we had a shared understanding in my district of what good teaching looks like in my content area and how to adapt the evaluation framework to reflect and grow my best practices. Or maybe you may have had this experience. I met with my administrator for the end of the year evaluation. We review the rubric, we talk through examples and evidences of how my practices matches the proficient rating in multiple areas. However, it's not clear what I need to do to move from proficient to distinguished practice. Many times, it involves giving students more of the locus of control. I want to see what that looks like so I can support my students. Please take a moment and let's have you reflect and respond to this question. Which of these barriers have you personally encountered, or maybe you've seen it in others, in your work with your local educator evaluation system? Thank you for participating in that poll question, and it seems like the majority of you have really considered one of the barriers as being a lack of time. The other one from your input is an inconsistent or an inauthentic part of the process. Our webinar series is designed today to attack these barriers by providing you with information, guidance, and best practice to support our teachers as well as our administrators.
Hello everyone, thank you again for participating on our webinar today. I do want to just remind you a quick note, we are on Twitter live tweeting during this webinar with the hashtag #OwningMyEvaluation. So feel free to scroll on over to Twitter and follow the conversation there as well. Much of what Michelle has shared with you already, as well as the poll questions, were built on some of those surveys that she mentioned have been administered to teachers across the state. So this is evidence that at MDE we're doing our best to listen to feedback from the field, and this webinar is just one small piece of the guidance and the support that we're hoping to provide to educators across our state to help improve and support their work with educator evaluation. So as we talk a little bit about taking the framework apart and unpacking it to make it relevant for us, the real benefit of having that locally adopted evaluation framework is that each district that has one of those now has a common definition of what excellent instruction looks like and has set high expectations for instructions in all classrooms and classroom settings. We know that making that standardized system relevant in every classroom is a real challenge facing local districts. We hope that our webinar today, as well as how we're supporting administrators, can help address that challenge. The strategy that we're gonna present today is directly aligned to helping build a collaborative process to break down, segment, and unpack the framework. We really believe this is a powerful opportunity for educators to really come together to build a shared understanding and definition of what effective teaching looks like across grade levels and across content areas. The adopted rubric that you have to measure teacher performance is a very valuable resource for your school leadership team and staff at your school. We believe that breaking that rubric into classroom observable language can really help to bring some clarity and transparency to the evaluation process while supporting educator growth and ultimately affecting student learning in a positive manner. The rubric can be unpacked in a variety of contexts at a department or grade level meeting or at whole staff meetings. But really, examining these standards, indicators, and elements in smaller chunks can be a powerful way to develop a rich, detailed, shared picture of what effective practice should look like. That shared understanding is the foundation for the strong professional culture that can support growth and development for every educator. Currently, I'm sure many of you are aware, we're working with 4 state-approved education models or evaluation models for teacher evaluation. Each of those models has some framework-specific language and organizational features that are unique to each model. Our goal in our webinar today is to provide some guidance and strategies that will support educators working with any of these models. Generally speaking, as you can see on the slide here, all the frameworks are organized by these 4 methods here, or this organizational features here, by standards, indicators, elements, and descriptors. Standards are the broad categories. For example, curriculum, planning, assessment. And as you make connections to your locally adopted framework, these standards can be synonymous with words like domains, dimensions, and components that you might see in your framework. As we're looking at the next level of specificity within these models, it's indicators. Indicators are the more specific knowledge, skills, and performance for each of the standards. For example, there are multiple indicators within the curriculum planning and assessment standards, such as differentiated instruction or engaging students. Next level of specificity will come to our elements. The elements are more specific descriptions of the actions and behaviors related to each indicator. These elements further break down the indicators into more specific aspects of practice and provide an opportunity for evaluators to offer more detailed feedback that serves as a roadmap for improvement. Examples of elements that you might find in your frameworks are communicating with students, chunking content, or using effective questioning. Finally, descriptors are the observable and measurable statements on the rubric that are aligned to each element. And they serve as the basis for identifying the level of teaching performance. In one of 4 categories, generally speaking, it's unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary. Your framework may use terms such as distinguished, basic, applying, or expert to describe those descriptors. As we're trying to conceptually understand how these frameworks are organized and put into practice, it's helpful to consider levels of performance across 3 levels: excellence, competence, and compliance. And this is a resource from the New Teacher Project that I thought was effective to help us understand how our frameworks are organized. Upon first implementation, a mindset towards compliance is very natural. However, with continued professional learning, practice, and growth, educators can move beyond compliance and looking at how to leverage these specific instructional elements and strategies to support our student learning and our professional growth goals. And if we think about the descriptors for the levels of performance on your locally adopted framework, which descriptors are synonymous with excellence, competence, and compliance? So think about that for a moment. As you think about the descriptors on your framework, which ones best connect with the ideas of compliance, competence, and finally excellence? When we consider practice at that excellence level, we are looking at the levels of rubric described that our rubrics describe as expert, distinguished, and innovating. As part of the Marzano research project that surveyed Michigan educators to measure our current implementation of educator evaluation systems, some site visits were conducted by the Marzano research group across 12 districts and 4 public school academies in Michigan. Case study participants identified some actions that supported their implementation of the new systems, and that's what's listed on the slide there. The 5 common approaches that supported success across these case study districts were a phased approach to implementation, so not the whole evaluation system at once, but a phased approach. Involvement of several stakeholder groups, administrators, and teachers in the training of the evaluation systems. Ongoing discussions between the stakeholders to further the understanding of the frameworks and rubrics. Highly engaged stakeholders at all levels, teachers, coaches, administrators, and board members. And finally, shared definitions and expectations for high quality instruction. So when we were putting out some content for today's webinar, we want to present the strategy of unpacking the framework as a method to reach towards several of these goals involving the involvement, collaboration, professional learning, and developing of a shared definition and expectations. So, with that said, how can we get started unpacking our framework? So here's a pretty straightforward protocol that will help starting to break apart those frameworks into language that can be turned into actionable steps for teachers in the classroom. To build a shared understanding of the framework, a really thorough analysis of the framework is necessary, and that's best done in collaborative settings. Consider these steps to help you take apart the teacher performance rubrics. First, read across the rows for each element. As you're reading across, highlight the key descriptors of performance at each of those levels. Finally, after you've highlighted several descriptors, then look down the column across the elements and circle the key words or ideas that best summarize each of the 4 performance levels. This process supports an understanding of how each element progresses from compliance to competence to excellence. And looking down the columns across elements helps educators to make connections between the common expectations across elements. As we go through this process for each of the elements of the framework, it's important to understand the goal, the standard, the goal, the standard, or the benchmark level of performance. So when we're talking about what is our benchmark, what is that proficient level, we define that as the minimum standard of practice, performance, or understanding to reach a positive result for students. The proficient performance descriptors represent the expected standard, the bar we expect all experienced teachers to demonstrate over time. As you're taking the rubric apart, examining each element at the proficient level can help in several ways. It really helps to put that element into context. Looking at that proficient level can support professional dialogue and collaboration, and also helps to set, as a benchmark level, helps us to set goals for professional growth for ourselves as individuals or as for teams of teachers. Here's another example of looking at that proficient level of practice. This is just a sample performance standard. It's within a family and community engagement indicator. The proficient performance descriptor says that a teacher would use a variety of strategies to support every family to participate actively and appropriately in the classroom and school community. So as we step in here with our collaboration, here's where we can really start to support the clarity and transparency across our classrooms. Using the guiding questions that are on the slide can really help us to in our mind, visualize what that strategy or indicator can look like in the classroom. So what does that proficient performance look like? What exactly would you expect a teacher to be doing if they're using this variety of strategies? In using your own words, describe that proficient performance for that indicator as just demonstrated across the elements. So you can see if we're sitting in a collaborative group of teachers and administrators and we're describing this proficient practice, we're automatically turning that into classroom look-fors and observables that can then be turned into documentation and guidelines for to help provide clarity for what our performance should look like. Again, we talked about as you're taking these rubrics apart, it's important to look horizontally across the elements to see the different levels of performance specific to that strategy. And it's also important to look vertically to look for the themes that are present throughout the rubric. And now that we spent some time identifying proficient practice for an element, we're better able to see what unsatisfactory, needs improvement, and exemplary practice look like. This standard here that's on the slide in front of us is about how teachers collaborate with families to support student learning at home and school. We can see what it means to be proficient. It's bolded there. Now let's look at the key descriptors for unsatisfactory, needs improvement, and exemplary. We can use some guiding questions to help facilitate a discussion. What's clear about what proficient practice looks like? Is it clear what it means to be at another level? How can I'm just going to check my audio. If you can hear me, can you just give me a yes in the Q&A so I know that my audio is working again? Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Sorry for that interruption, guys. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this example again. Let's look just down the unsatisfactory row there for a minute. I want you to see if you can pick up on a theme there in unsatisfactory. I want you to try to type a comment in the Q&A here. What words that do you see within that unsatisfactory that might tell us, that help connect across the elements? What's the theme of unsatisfactory? What are the key words there that pop up several times? Words like does not and rarely describe the practice within unsatisfactory. Let's jump over to the other side and look at exemplary. What words do we see in the exemplary column that describe practice at the highest level of this rubric? Yep, and I see some people identifying them. It's the modeling and the success, right? That's the words that on this rubric that describe the highest level of exemplary practice. Let's do one more. How about the needs improvement section? What words do we see commonly occurring there? And thank you for those that are participating and dropping some ideas in our Q&A box. We look at the needs improvement. We saw in the unsatisfactory is words like does not or rarely. In the highest level, it was successfully. There in the needs improvement, it's words like occasional or only. And our theme of proficient, if we look there, we have some more words there that are common themes. And if we look at proficient closely, we can see that consistently and regularly are the words that describe the practice at the proficient level. Now again, these are just sample rubric here, but when you look at your own teacher rubric and really start picking apart that framework, as you look down down the columns of the elements, you're really going to find some strong themes that will help you connect between the elements and help drive the practice and make that more real and authentic. To help your work with unpacking the framework, we suggest using a graphic organizer to record some of those ideas for evidences of the work that the collaborative group is doing, as well as to provide artifacts to drive future work. We have attached a copy of this within our download section that you can grab at the end of the webinar. It'll be available for you again. But this graphic organizer is something that can help you pick apart your rubric as you're breaking it down and unpacking it. You can see step one is to define the proficient level of practice. That's where we always want to begin. What's the benchmark? What's the standard? What's the level of practice that we're all setting as a goal for ourselves? And then following by identifying some of the key phrases from each of the other levels of performance. Now, the ideal scenario to complete this work, this unpacking work, is a collaborative effort with teacher and administrator involvement. In addition to professional colleagues, you'll find some other resources that are very helpful to this process. Your teacher rubric, of course, is going to be your primary resource that you use and consider. Also, several of the vendor copyrighted materials that have produced the frameworks have observable documents that describe what the classroom practice can look like at each level. Those can be a very, very helpful resource. So contacting your vendor that provides your framework can often result in getting access to those resources. Additionally, your vendor training and resources, the online resources and videos relevant to each indicator are a very helpful tool. I think the videos especially help to make relevant and authentic and just more real what that practice looks like in the classroom. Additionally, our state and national professional organizations are an excellent resource to provide guidance around educator evaluation. Professional organizations for physical education, music, world language, special education, etc. They all provide guidance, have classroom observable documents, and evaluation frameworks specific to their content areas. So if I was in one of those specialty areas and I was working collaboratively with a group of my peers, in a non-core subject, I would be crosswalking those resources with my locally adopted rubric and looking how I can make connections between those to support my own understanding and sharing that with my evaluator during my conferences to also support their understanding and practice in observing my instruction. So we've talked you through the process for breaking apart your evaluation framework. We're emphasizing collaboration, looking at each level of performance and looking at it one element at a time and really turning that into describing what that looks like in the classroom. So as you're considering what this could look like for you, we do have another poll question for you to respond to. And this one is, which of your collaborative partners are you going to access to help you unpack this framework? Go ahead and take a moment to respond to this poll for us, please. Go ahead and continue to respond if you have not already, and also check out the responses from your peer group here. It looks like a lot of us will find support with our grade level and department colleagues, and also some within our ISD teams and our PLC work groups. This can be fantastic work to drive PLC processes and professional development in your work. There is really enough meat within these rubrics to spend several sessions sitting down in them, unpacking them. So if sometimes the professional development leaves some choice for teachers, this is a great way to provide feedback as far as what you need as educators in your local context. Communicate with your administrators that you want to spend some time unpacking the framework and that you'd like some skilled facilitators to help you with that process. Thank you again for responding. And Michelle's going to take back over and share some more content with you.
We're going to take a look at shifting the mindset regarding your instructional frameworks, and we're presenting two big ideas for teachers on how they can build a better understanding of their evaluation system, take ownership of the evaluation process, and be a catalyst for action and improvement in their classrooms and in their schools. This afternoon, we presented about the opportunity to unpack your framework being the first strategy. Teacher and leadership teams that thoughtfully engage in this process have a better understanding of their framework, supporting confidence within the implementation opportunity. Next, we can build on that shared understanding by increasing the frequency and the quality of the feedback that is provided to teachers about their implementation of these instructional frameworks and the elements. as we move forward and begin to have the conversation about feedback, effective feedback supports professional growth. Survey feedback from educators around the state have identified some common concerns regarding feedback on professional practice related to adopted instructional frameworks. Survey responses describe time and lack of skills and evaluation among some of the barriers to implementation. Similarly, educators cite loose connections between professional standards and expectations to student learning outcomes and information to increase student learning and educators' professional growth. This disconnect creates a cycle that drags down the utility of the educator evaluation and can result in compliance rather than the substantive implementation or the continuing the cycle. And I'm going to just move forward with have you taking a look at and have you wonder if you've heard about this before. Teacher A. I'm not getting the feedback that I am looking for to improve my instruction. I want to become a better teacher, but we just don't have the time to discuss instruction. Or maybe Teacher B. I feel like I'm trying to implement many of these strategies, but I'm not really sure how well I'm doing. I get mixed results from my students, and I'm not feeling confident about trying these strategies when the principal comes through for my walkthroughs. If you're reflecting on these conversations, maybe that you've had with your colleagues about the expectations set by the adopted evaluation framework, I wonder, have these themes entered your discussions? In taking a look at some common questions, have these questions about specific grade levels and content area concerns been a part of collegial conversations and discussions in your building or in your district? What does it look like for kindergartners to be involved in self-talk that provides evidence for their thinking? What should it look like when students are talking about their learning target? What does an elementary music classroom look like that has learning targets and success criteria posted? What does a special education classroom look like when students have the locus of control for their learning? What does it look like when students are assessing their own learning in relation with the learning target and success criteria? And what does it look like when students are assessing their own learning and then creating goals in a high school classroom? Moving forward, how can teachers own their own feedback in that process? What should it look like when students are talking about their learning target? And what does it look like when special ed students are taking ownership? Does that look different than the general education classroom? And how do I step back gradually and turn the locus of control over to them? How do I teach students how to do that? Does it look different in different grades? And how do they monitor their learning over time in relation to their goals? The types of questions on the previous slide that we covered help drive home the importance of collaborating with your colleagues to support the implementation of new strategies. Peer observation and feedback provide opportunities and support for teachers in their specific contexts. Increasing involvement in peer observation and feedback supports a common, shared understanding of effective practices while allowing all teachers to provide input and expertise to one another, while also demonstrating an openness to learn from others. The idea behind peer observation is it involves everyone working on their practice. Everyone is obliged to be knowledgeable about a common task of instructional improvement, and everyone's practice should be subject to scrutiny, critique, and improvement. After all, the purpose of educator evaluation is to improve student achievement. It is to improve the use of skills and strategies, to provide an opportunity for authentic feedback and dialogue, for effective evaluation systems to be implemented with fidelity using research and evidence-based instruments. And we want to be able to hone in on evaluation as a powerful opportunity to ultimately improve student learning through improved teacher practice. We're going to take a pause and provide you with an opportunity to reflect and respond on the next poll question. And what are your thoughts on this statement? And this is a little bit different, as we're going to ask you to type a response into the poll. Please take a look at the following quote. The unique context of teaching means that teacher skills and knowledge are more important than nearly any other factor in predicting and determining students' academic success, and thus development of teacher practice is essential. And again, you're going to be typing in your answer. We're going to go ahead and give you about another minute. We understand that this is a short answer, but if you could go ahead and finish up, we'd appreciate that. And thank you for hanging tough with our tech issues today. We do appreciate that as well.
Thank you all for your thoughtful responses there. We're really enjoying reading them here. I hope you're taking a moment here to read the thoughts of your peers out there as well as they respond to this question. Um, Certainly many factors that affect a student's ability to learn in the classroom, and unfortunately not all those are within the control of the school. As we know, outside of school factors have a big effect on student learning. But what's encouraging about your responses, as well as I think is encouraging across our state, is the increased awareness and intention towards social emotional learning and developing educator skills in those areas as well, so that we can better reach our students and have the cultural competencies to meet students of all different backgrounds where they are, to help engage more of the students more of the time, to really increase learning. So thank you for bringing out that social emotional learning piece. It is so critical, and I'm glad that's at the forefront of all of your minds here as we participate today, because certainly not everything is measured. Not all skills that are important to teachers are measured by these educator evaluation systems, but we hope that as we spend more time with these systems, that we find more ways to connect the instructional pedagogies that are in the frameworks with the social emotional skills and learnings that are important to connect with students. So thank you again for your participation there, really thoughtful responses. Okay, let's talk a little bit about peer observation in our protocol. I can see our slides here are taking just a second to load, but we're caught up now. Uh, Getting teachers into each other's classrooms is really not a new idea, but it can certainly be a logistical challenge to try to execute. So let's take a look at how to structure effective peer observations so that maybe we can gain some momentum and some collaboration around that idea. For peer observation, we're really talking about a teacher-driven approach that incorporates consistent meeting of a group of teachers that wants to provide each other with feedback. So the process for starting peer observation is to build that team first, and then once we have that team, to identify a problem that the school is seeking to address that we can handle through or address through instructional practice. After coming to a consensus around that problem, teachers then can conduct observations in a group and debrief their findings. And this is really an in-depth approach to help gather feedback. And really the key word here is trust that needs to be developed amongst this group to really support the kind of collaboration to move this process forward. So as we look at what are the key principles of peer observation, peer observations are most effective when a common goal and focus is shared by the group. To improve teaching and learning, a focus on the instructional core is essential. Okay, sorry about that. So as we talk about the parts of the instructional core, we're talking about the teacher, the student, and the content. When we're trying to predict performance for a student, we have to focus on what the students are being asked to do. The instructional task is the actual work that students are asked to do during the process of instruction. Not always what teachers think they're asking students to do, or not always what the official curriculum says, but in that moment, what the students are actually asked to do. Think, respond, create, whatever the actual task is that they're being asked to do. And to improve learning, we cannot focus just on one element of this instructional core. We can't just look at the teacher, we can't just look at the students, and we can't just look at the content or the curriculum, but we really need to focus on all of the elements of the core to try to improve instruction. And peer observation works to improve teacher skills and knowledge, as well as the students' level of engagement and participation, and of course the rigor of the content that's being taught. So let's talk about building your peer observation team. Here's some considerations for you to make. Building a team for peer observation is very, very important. We want to consider the content and the grade levels and the experience level of the teachers that will be participating. We want to be sure to have a fair amount of expertise on the team. Experts on teaching and learning are really important to have on the team. The expertise can come from master teachers, instructional coaches, and savvy instructional leaders. Certainly beginning teachers should be a part of this team as well, but an expert or experts on the team is critical. Consider also the importance of developing trust and collegiality as part of this process. Your team will want to define ground rules for their collaborative work to promote that confidence and trust. And a research note there at the bottom of the slide really emphasizes the importance of trust to support that collegiality. Prior to conducting observations, your group will want to come to a consensus about an area of focus for study and improvement. Your peer observation will be so much more effective if you have that shared goal or shared understanding of what you're going into the classroom to look for. This can be as fine-grained as a specific element from your framework, or it can be more broad to encompass an entire standard or concept. Identifying a problem that the group has a shared desire to solve is the first step. Again, focus on the instructional core of the teacher, the student, and the academic task. We want to focus on a problem that can be observed in the classroom, and certainly one that is something that we can take action on and have within our control. And ultimately, if we choose a focus area that's connected to some larger skill or goals or school improvement goals, strategies for improvement, that would be a strong leverage point to get more out of our peer observation practice. When we're thinking about the problem is something that the group cares about and would make a difference for student learning if it was improved. And this shared focus really does help define the work. And of all the things that we could pay attention to in the classroom, we're going to focus particularly on this one thing. Whether it's student talk, differentiated instruction, learning targets, it can be a wide variety of things, but having that shared focus is really critical. And this problem of practice that we define will drive our observation and collaborative work. So let's talk about now we're getting out there to actually conduct the observations. What does that process look like? Well, we're going to try to get into classrooms to observe the teacher and learning. And actually, I want to make sure to emphasize at this point the importance of creativity to work around some of the logistical issues that can come up when we're trying to gather a team of teachers at the same time to observe instruction. We know how tight our schedules are of our teachers on a day-to-day basis. So if you're challenged by that logistic, please consider the value of video to record and debrief instruction. While this can feel a little awkward at first, using video to record short segments of instruction and then debriefing that later collaboratively can really increase the efficiency of this process. So as teams are out collecting observation data during the classroom observations, we want to be descriptive and specific what we see, but we're not going to be evaluative. This is a peer-to-peer process built on feedback and collaboration, not on evaluation. And we're going to look for data in the classrooms that, again, is about the instructional core and connects back to that focus area that we've defined. And we want to include a specific format for observation note-taking. This doesn't have to be really complex. There's lots of them out there. But a simple graphic organizer where we can record what the students are doing and saying, what the teacher is doing and saying, and what is the academic task is really sufficient to do that work. Be sure to share these important guidelines or consider these as you're getting started with your work. We want to be listeners and good guests in the classroom and not disrupt or interrupt the teacher or the lesson. We're not going to talk with members during the classroom observation. Instead, we're going to wait until the debrief in a private location. And we always want to focus our observation on what the students are actually doing, not just what the teacher has asked them to do. We're getting really close to the end of our webinar here, and we just have a few slides to go, and then we'll be wrapping up. Let's see here. When it's time to sit down and look at our observation data, it's time to debrief. Let's take a look here at what we're going to do. And when we're sitting with that team to debrief our observation, we're going to describe what we saw. We're going to try to analyze what we saw. What patterns do we see in the instruction? We're going to make predictions about what the students are learning by putting ourselves in their shoes. If I was a student in that classroom and I did everything that was asked of me, what would I now be able to do? We're going to describe what we see. We're not going to jump to analysis. We're going to be descriptive first. We're going to read through our notes. We're going to highlight observations that are relevant to that focus area. And we're going to select pieces of data that are relevant, that are important to share with the group. When it's time to analyze, we're going to come to a common understanding of what the group saw, and we're going to group the data in ways that are meaningful, and again, really examine those patterns of instruction. To further support your group during observation debriefs, Think about these principles of effective debriefs. Make sure you have a facilitator, a timekeeper. Stick to the evidence and share the time to talk in the meetings. That shared collaboration is critical. A few research notes here about the importance of the non-judgmental constructive feedback, and also around this idea of critical friends. Effective peer observation moves beyond just happy talk. Certainly we want to acknowledge and celebrate the effective practice of our peers, but effective peer observers are also serve as critical friends and are skilled at building rapport with their peers while also raising important questions about the problem of practice in that shared area of focus so that we can continue to grow as a group. I believe my audio is back. I apologize for temporarily leaving you again there. The emphasis of this slide was just after conducting peer observations to make sure to have some time for the group to process how the group worked together, as well as to set goals for the continued work in the next area of focus for observation. Got one more poll for you here before we wrap up. And this one, of all the parts of peer observation that we talked about were benefits, what is the one that motivates you to get started? Are you excited about increasing collaboration? Are you about the opportunity to learn from your peers? Just the idea to increase the amount of feedback that you could receive? Or is it the idea of having that shared focus to improve teaching and learning? Tell us maybe which of those is most motivating to you and why that is a source of motivation for you. And I'll read those again because I realized those disappeared off the slide. So, is it to increase collaboration? The opportunity to learn from others, to receive additional feedback, or to have a shared focus to improve learning? We'll take just about a minute to respond here. Definitely seeing some common themes there as you look through the responses of your colleagues. Still about 30 more seconds if you haven't had a chance to respond yet. We want the feedback, but more than anything, we want that chance to learn from our peers, don't we? We know our colleagues have fantastic strategies that they're using, and we don't spend enough time in one another's classroom. So through this webinar series, we're challenging teachers to empower themselves with skills and strategies to take back the evaluation process. We think peer observation is a really key strategy there. So we encourage you to consider that, to build a team at your schools and get your administrators on board to support your work there. It really can be a profound and effective strategy. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We know we went a little bit over time. Michelle's going to give you a few things to wrap up our webinar, and thank you again for joining us today.
Hi, I'm sorry, my tech went out again. I do want to say thank you for your input on the last poll question, and we are very proud to support exemplars here at MDE, and I do want to say thank you for noting the power that comes from working with one another. And here at MDE, we want to take a moment and kind of do a quick shout out to Avondale School District in Oakland County and the work that they were doing with Oakland University through their job embedded teacher lab. And for those of you that are interested in doing doing peer observations, that would be a great resource for you to kind of collaborate with. We have some exciting upcoming events that we would like to support educators with their evaluation systems, and that would be our Student Growth Regional Collaborative Sessions. We have partnered in collaboration with MEA, AFT, MASA, MASB, and MEMSPA for a state assessment for student growth. We cover student growth analysis models, assessment inventory, using meaningful student growth data, creating quality student growth reports, guidance to create a district-level student growth data plan. We have registration and information links available for you, and that is a hot link on the PowerPoint, and we would love to see you there. And we have brought this workshop across the state of Michigan. We have dates for the second session and the third session available. And for those of you interested in a student growth model, we would love to have you join us with your administrative team. And there is power, as we have seen, in working in collaboration together. Additional upcoming events. We want to remind you that February 15th, which is just around the corner, your next teacher webinar in the series is fast approaching. You've got the March and the April dates also listed. For those of you that might have an opportunity to reach out to your administrators, the dates for the administrator series is also there, along with a live link to the the former OET webinars is also listed there. And we also want to say thank you for hanging with us today during our tech issues. And as always, our office is deeply and steeply rooted in supporting you, and we look forward to our continued efforts to support you in your evaluation process. We do want to remind you that you will be getting an email with all the information that you need, including your sketch information and expanded content, including the PDF of the presentation, a recording, and a link for the survey. So we look forward to seeing you. Files are still available for download right now for those of you that need that. We want to say thank you for hanging tough and being our Thursday warriors after 5. And again, we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Happy Thursday, everybody, and stay warm. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.